I'm live, I think. I am alive, anyway. And no, the dog still hasn't come. I'm sorry, y'all. Greetings, blessings, and welcome. I am your humble host, David Noel, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I took my dog out almost 45 minutes ago, and he was standing at the door, and I'm like, okay, and go to the toilet before we start this. And next thing you know, he's still out there. So, anyway, um, I hope he comes home as part of the hope versus fear. So here's a hope versus fear thing right now, right? But anyway, each and every day, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. And as um, several things that have happened here in the last couple of days, some information that I got today that's encouraging, where and this is where hope comes in. Had there been no hope that my friend Marcia would get better, or that my other friend, Mr. Randy, that had the lawnmower fall and crush his chest, or that this would happen or that would happen, or my granddaughter you know, would um, get out of jail and learn to, you know, get off the drugs in the situation she's been in for so many years. And so I've gotten good information back. So it's like, for example, my friend Marcia, and we'll all say a prayer for her. She when she fell and broke her arm, she also injured her back, and she's not able to stand due to her back injury. So she's in the hospital now for a good 10 to 14 days. But I spoke to her today. She called me and she said, she sounded great. She was in much better spirits. She's a nurse for, 35 years and cranky when it comes to, getting herself well. But she's realized that, she does need to do this. So, but here, what's this got to do with the subject matter? It's the hope that we have that we will get better. And it's our intentions and our prayers that we will get better or someone will overcome whatever it is they need to overcome. And the fear will eat you alive. I'm kind of sitting here on pins and needles because, I don't like my dog wandering around to the neighbors up there because it's up by the road. And also, they shoot dogs, and especially if they get up around their chickens or cats or something. And so I don't know what Duggar's doing. So it bothers me. And so I have this fear. So I hope that he gets back soon. And but my fear is like, God, is he at the neighbors? Is he, chasing chicken? What's he doing? Or is he down in the woods and is he going to tangle up with a possum or something? Well, I don't hear any barking. And if he'd, scrounged up a possum or something, he'd be barking. So there are certain things that I know, but at the same time, anytime he runs off for this length of time, he's off to no good. 10 minutes, okay. But I'm going on an hour now, he ain't supposed to be out. So, but with the hopes and our fears and everything, and hi, everybody. Let me put my glasses on and read who's here. Michelle, I noticed that you were in. Teresa, Dark Truth, Barry, how are y'all? And so here's the subject matter. There are so many people who are stuck on this, and I haven't really discussed this in a while as a separate subject. But there are folks out there who's like, well, there is no hope for this, or, you're so full of hopium. Now, having just hope isn't the answer. And the way out of this is with our thoughts and our thought pattern. So if we accept the fear versus whether or not we hope something's going to get better or the dog comes home or whatever we hope for, we hope that it all turns out right? Now, but we have the fear that something might go wrong. So connected with this is we've got this positive energy that we're trying to bring forth to quote, achieve whatever our goal is. I want my dog to come home, or the fear that he's gotten into something and, the neighbor shot him or something. I haven't heard any gunshots. So, but He don't need to be wandered around up on the road and stuff like that. I've had two dogs get killed up there on the road, and that's no. So living on 18 acres and as far off the road as I am, this dog is quick. So he's at the top of the driveway at the count of 10. He's that fast. But anyway, so but in our lifetime though, there is so much fear and chaos that is absolutely being pushed on us that I see folks losing hope. I mean, they're succumbing to the fear. And I'm fearful that everybody's going to be caught by the fear. Now, I know that's like a what? What? Yeah. So I fear that people won't understand what's going on. I fear that the chaos will get them. So I'm becoming part of the fear in a different way. So I have to keep hope going because otherwise my fear will overtake it. So one of the things that, I'm always talking about is that our awareness of things. So it's like I'm aware of the fact that, my granddaughter's in jail, and I'm fearful that she will regress and end up back in prison where she has just now, good news, has just now gotten into a halfway house. But she's already like, but I don't have anything. There's no family up here, but I got to stay here and I don't know what to do. Well, listen, it's time that you grew up at your 20-something-year-old, and she's got a daughter, wants to see her. But because she's, going to be on parole and an ankle bracelet and all that, so she's going to have to conform and have to learn how to live in a better way. She's going to have to play the game in order to get out of the system so that she can try to become a normal person. So, and my daughter and I talked about it tonight. We're both fearful that she'll give up. And I've been through stuff. My daughter's been through stuff. And between the two of us, we try to give we try to give Casey some strength, give her hope that there's a better tomorrow, give her hope that she can overcome her drug addiction instead of, focusing on the fear that she might go back in or the fear that she will, take it. So there is a fine line in there where one might overtake the other, but it's very difficult to dispel the fear entirely. My dog's not back yet. So what's he up to? My granddaughter's, is in a halfway house and she's got very little support other than the support of the halfway house. So how's she going to react? I'm going to pray that she, I've been praying for years now, but, for her to change her habits and see different things. And she's starting to see things more clearly in a different way. Not just some teenager that, wants to hang out with her hose and that kind of stuff, that she, listen, that kind of behavior is just not tolerable, especially now that you've got a prison record, you can't be hanging out with them kind of folks as part of your probation, your parole, or whatever the agreement. And so it's like, you're going to have to straighten up whether you like it or not. Now, what you do after you've, gotten off probation and everything, but the thing is the whole idea is to not necessarily go along with the man, but if you've been put in prison, then you're under certain conditions and you better damn follow them. That's all there is to it. There is no hedging here and there. There is no, well, I'll get away with this. No. So, but in that, there's hope that she will find out and dig a little deeper and say, listen, I've gotten this far. There's hope for me yet. Because now instead of being in prison, she completed this program and is now in a halfway house. So that should give her confidence. But right now she's very fearful because now she's out and she's afraid that she's going to fall backwards. So is her fear going to overtake the hope that she can overcome it? You know what I'm saying? So there is this constant battle between hope and fear. And as a shaman in training, the thing we must work on is the fear part. Because if we get rid of the fear and stop being afraid of everything, then there is hope for us. You know, there is hope for the future. There's hope for a better tomorrow. Now, here's the thing, and one of the things that we have not been faced with, people in World War I, World War II, Civil War, blah blah blah. There have been situations where people have been dealt. They've had to deal with things that they just normally wouldn't have to deal with. We're in that situation now with the mask and the this and the that and this stuff. So what do we do? Even if the market crashes, fearing that it might could actually bring about its existence. Okay. So if we continue to hope, the market crash, okay, that's just a thing. But there are a lot of people worried about it. And so it's like, if you're worried about it, then sell some of your stocks, convert it into cash, if nothing else. Well, you should buy gold. Well, you could just have a safe in your house, or, pick a spot and, put the money in between a couple of pages of a book, and, and that be your vault. But you could keep, a couple of $100 in your house, you know, so that if something happens, you got change, you got that. So, oh, but I don't have it. It's all tied up. Well, then untie it so that you can at least have a modicum of hope. Well, if something does go bad, I got some money in my hand. Well, you can't convert. Well, buy gold. Then what are you going to do with it? Well, I have gold certificates. Well, if things go to crap, that piece of paper ain't going to do you lick squat of good. But if you got a $20 bill and go to somebody, you could probably do some bartering. But if you've got gold, so all these people that are trying to save themselves and salvage themselves in the hopes if something does happen, they'll be able to convert it. But who's going to be able to convert it after the fact? Well, but you've got gold. Do you have it in your hand? Well, no, I've got the certificate. Ha ha. Do you not get that? Well, it says I can get it. Yeah, but if the system goes down, do you honestly think you're going to get it? So if you want to do something of value, is what some folks that I knew on the carnival would do. They would go into these jewelry stores in every town down here in the South, and go into the local jewelry stores and the pawn shops and see what was there. And sometimes they would have these, uh, my friend Chuck had just a wonderful Eiffel jewelry. So he'd get this piece for 20, 50 bucks, maybe $100. He usually said, $100 or less plus tax. But then he'd get back to Tampa and he would show these rings to people and go, well, that's a $500 ring. And he'd go, yeah, I know. He wouldn't tell them how much he paid. So he'd sell it back to people and stuff that he knew during the wintertime and make $400 off of one ring, and sometimes more. So he would go to estate sales, jewelry. So so I asked him one time, I said, why are you buying all this? And he said, in case anything happens, if I don't have any money, if I go broke or something like that, I've got this jewelry that I can always sell. It will always have a value. Someone will trade for it or something, because you could wear a ring or a pendant or a bracelet or something, So there was value in that to him. So, but his investment was that I'm going to buy jewelry. Plus, he liked it. But at the same time, he knew that he could resell anyway. So there's this other side of the coin. I'm looking to see if Duggar is back. I don't see him out by the front porch. Anyway, so he's really missing. But so there are things that we can do to quench that fear. There are things that we can do to go, wait a minute, I'm afraid of this and that. Okay, so then pick, to folks I have talked to, sometimes the fix is a short one. So it's like, well, I can't sell all my stock, but I can do with this or that, and I can get $1,000. Okay, well then take that $1,000 and maybe you spend $50 and buy a safe. if you don't have one or something, or if you feel like somebody might break in. Well, if you don't tell anybody you got it and you put it somewhere, then, unless somebody just ramshackles your house, then you've got this money. I used to stick money in between pages in certain books, right? And I got a lot of books. So they'd have to go through every book and do the old, thing to find $20. But to the point though, if somebody really wants, they could say, listen, I got me a little stash, and you don't tell nobody, but you got it, and it could be, we used to, stash money in a sock in the sock drawer. Just take a clean pair of socks and wad up some money and stick it in the bottom of the socks. And then you fold the socks up and you stick it in with the rest of the socks. And people will go through the drawer, but they won't go like feeling the sock. So there's ways that you can not, not be afraid of being caught short, but people are all about the card. And listen, I just talked to my daughter down in Pensacola, where they didn't have any water damage, but a lot of wind damage, a lot of electricity out, and that kind of thing. And they're facing another storm coming in. So she wanted to talk to me before the next storm hit. But with that said, though, but they're planning ahead, So, and anybody that lives down in Florida, you got to plan ahead. Go to the store, get a this, get a that, get some gas ahead of time, So, she was saying that earlier in the day that there were people lined up at the pumps and everybody was fighting. But a couple hours later, there was just a couple of people at the pump. So everybody rushed at the same time, getting off of work, doing this anyway. So it was to the point where folks were really like going to get out their guns and shoot one another, because we hurry up in the line. We need the gas. And then 2 hours later, when the rush is over, you can pull up, get gas, and out of there. There's no wait. So interesting in different things. The fear that people have, right, that overcomes their common sense. My daughter and I were talking about it, and one of the reasons for bringing this subject up. But so, and there's so many things to be afraid of. And when we allow ourselves to have the fear overtake the hope, then it's not necessarily hopeless, but it's getting that way. So I'm looking at this. It's sort of, in radio, they have VU meters, right? So you check to see how hot your microphone is. So you check it and it's pumping the red, and you want it to just hit that line before it goes into red so that your mic stays hot, right? And you get the right distance. So if you get too close to the mic and get too loud, it peaks and it'll sound crackly over the radio kind of thing. So you learn what the distance is to your microphone, and you learn this, right? But anyway, what's that got to do with it? The fear of not being able to get her done. Oh, the meter. So the meter, what we need to do, hope is on the left or right, you pick one. Hope is on the left and fear is on the right side of this gauge. So we want hope to go past the center on our little, VU meter, and to push the fear aside. Otherwise, if our mic's not hot enough, then people can't hear it, so it's a strange analogy that I'm throwing out to you on that one. But in this, though, and it doesn't take long. All you got to do is just say, okay, I'm going to take a few minutes here and think about this. Have I been more hopeful or more fearful today? Up to now, whatever. And just, wait a minute, let me think about this. Well, I've had this fear and that fear and this and that, and I've got anxiety. And now another, like my daughter and them, they're not fearing the storm coming, but there is an anxiousness, not necessarily an anxiety, but you don't know what's coming. There's rain and wind, but you don't know if if a tornado is going to get spawned or, but it's coming. So you're anxious about that. Like I'm sitting here anxious to whether or not my dog's going to show back up, but I'm still hopeful, see what I'm saying? So, with that said, we have to look at our lives and go, let's just have a little conversation here. And it's not, you don't beat yourself up over this, okay? This isn't, well, I've been more fearful today and shame on you. No, it's not that. What it is the realization that, wait a minute, I have been focused too much on fear today. Whoops, let me change that. And it's a realization. It's that awareness. It's the hawk card. It's the observing more, than just this narrow little spot, right? But now the fear can be cumulative. I'm worried about whether or not I'm going to get to town, or I'm worried or not whether or not the dog's going to show back up. I'm worried or not whether or not blah blah blah. And so I can create these monsters of fear myself. I don't need anything else. I'm my worst enemy in that. But at the same time, I go, as soon as I start hearing myself say it, I go, oh, cut it out, you know? Where in the past, I would have dwelt upon the fear. Oh God, I don't know. What am I going to do about this? And then the worry sets in, and then your hormones and your gastric juices change, and you start getting anxious, and anxiety builds up, and then you have a freaking panic attack. We avoid that by noticing it. Whoops, I feel that thing coming on. Hang on, I got it. So, how do we get out of it? We think about something hopeful. Now, I don't think any of us really know what's going to be coming in the future. I really don't. I'm hopeful it's going to turn out okay. One way or the other, it's going to be okay. And I bring this up in that even if there's another hurricane coming, so at some point there's going to be a catastrophic event. Somebody's house is going to get flooded, a tree's going to get blowed down, something's going to happen. Who, where, we don't know. But we do know that limbs are going to come down, water's going to rise, a lot of rain. We know these facts. So, but do we fear them? No. Like my daughter and her partner, they're prepared. They got this up, they did that, they got extra water, they got another thing of batteries, gas, they gassed up full truck. So whatever their basic needs are, and that was the other thing that we talked about, is that what are the basic needs that you have? And Steve was telling me, he said, a few years ago, he said, I realized that I thought I needed a lot, but I needed a lot, but I realized that it's what I wanted. And a lot of us have had this realization over the years and time. Do I really need it? Well, no, but I want it. But do I need it? Well, there are certain necessities that when we look at the big picture, I don't really need that. And especially if the lights go out, or, we've got a couple of days of no electricity and so forth, and the stores are closed, or they're dealing only with cash, or what do you do? So you prepare. So you can quench a lot of the fear by having this self-confidence that you're as prepared as you can be. So there's solace in that. There's strength in that. But when people have no reason or any tool, or having gas in your truck, in case there's the power goes out, or something like that, we used to put a bunch of water in the freezer. We had a lift up freezer, chest type freezer, and we'd put gallons of water in the freezer. And because you could use it for ice in the refrigerator, and also when it melted, you had water. So how hard is that to do? But a lot of people don't think about that. So, but And, when I grew up in Florida and everything with hurricanes and the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that, we learned that we've got this stuff. And unless it just gets so bad, well, that none of us can be prepared for, like a Katrina kind of thing, or back in the day it was Camille that hit the coast around Alabama and Mississippi and over there. Camille was horrible. Um, Back in the 60s, I believe it was, yes. So, but anyway, Hurricane Donna did a lot of devastation for us there in Tampa back when that happened. But we were prepared, and regardless of lights or not, we had candles, and we were used to camping, and so we didn't have fans, and we never did have air conditioning when I was growing up. So we had fans and stuff like that. But all of this stuff that if the electricity was out, well, we just went into camping mode. Now that took the fear away of, are we going to live or die? You know what I'm saying? Now, lots of other ways to look at the hope and fear. We hope that, the damage is minimal. We hope and pray that, nobody gets injured, or if they do, that it's minor only. We hope that this will this and that, right? Okay. But if we start throwing fear into it, and the more people that fear the worst, I think it just amplifies it. So, what we must do, even when Michael came through a couple of years ago, I've never seen pine trees bend sideways before. And I've never seen the rain and the wind. Of all the storms I've been through, that was the worst. Yep. Um, Hurricane Kate came through here back in the 80s and did a lot of damage, tore my neighbor's barn up then. And then ripped it down again this last time. But to that, I always knew, regardless of what happened, we'd make it through it. We'd rebuild whatever it. Now, those folks that keep trying to live down there on the coast, I just shake my head and go, you should move a little further inland. Oh no, I like living on the beach. Yeah, okay. You know, it's like people who love living in the earthquake zone in California. Sorry, been to California. It's really nice and all, but I'm sorry, but when the ground's shaking all the time, I just don't feel comfortable. So, we can put ourselves in fear. You know what I mean? We can live in an area that is dangerous. So, how do you get rid of the fear? You can take control of your life. Well, I got this job and I can't leave. And if we have an earthquake, or if a storm comes, or if this happens, okay. But also realize that you really do have a choice in this. You just, you've made up your mind because of your fear that you can't get out, that you can't. So you lose hope that, well, I'm stuck in my situation. Are you really? I mean, can you just like gather up some clothes and take what money you have and put gas in the tank and haul ass? Because what if that situation were to come up, you know? And there are a lot of those, you got to travel back. I don't have to go anywhere anymore. I'm here, right? So, in one of the things that came up during the California fires was that there were people who had caches of food. Some people say cache. Anyway, a store, in their house, in their basement, or something like that. So if they had extra, but now the house is burned down and the place is gone, they lost their backup. So not only did they lose their home in case they had to like split, they lost their backup stuff too. So it's like, now what do you do? And some folks back up in the mountains, their backup was a cabin in those woods that are now being burned. So they were going to escape to this, to their remote location that ain't there no more now. So it's like, now what do you do? Punt. Seriously, you punt. If you give up hope, well, that's it. Well, no. My friend Randy, who had was crushed by that lawnmower, he told me, he said, I'm going to walk again. Either that or he'll be dead. But as long as he's alive, he's a Marine and he's tough. And he's like, I'm going to walk again. So he's not hoping, he's making the statement, I will. Well, okay. Now, I'm not going to, he's not letting the fear of how long it's going to take, what he's going to have to do, doesn't matter. His hope is so strong that he just doesn't have any fear. Well, what if you don't walk again? I'm not hearing it. Now, he may not walk again because of his condition, but he's not giving up hope. That's just not in his vocabulary. As long as I'm alive and as long as I'm breathing, I'm not giving up. So in that, he is more than hopeful. His VU meter of hoping versus fear, he's overcome his fear. He's not worried about the fear part. What if I don't get better? What if I don't this? What if he ain't worried about it? And if he is, it's very little. So how do we look at our lives? Are we living more in fear? Now, I got to say that these times right now have not been seen. The nearest that was like this um, was um, was back during the Depression when people lost homes, and also during the great dust storms back in the day when folks in Texas, Oklahoma, they lost farms and cattle and land and oh my God. So we've had severely tragic events in this United States and within the last century, I might add. But this particular thing, now a lot of information about the how this was overblown. And I do believe this whole mess has been overblown. But so are we going to live in that fear, or are we going to just say, look, okay, enough's enough? Well, the president got sick. Yeah, but he ain't dead. He didn't, he got back out of the hospital. Well, what about this? Yeah, but they didn't die neither. And what about that? And what about the mask thing? Well, listen, if we're going to get sick, we are. And it might not be the COVID. It might just be that we got a temperature. What if I'm just too hot and I show a temperature? There have been more false positives out there. The football teams and the NASCAR drivers, well, they tested one day. Well, he's got COVID. And they wait 12 hours or 24 hours and they test. Whoops, nope, sorry, he ain't got it. So it's like, so there's all this hype about everybody getting it, but then there's also, they're not saying, well, a lot of those have been false positives. They're not saying how many false positives they've had. Well, he tested positive. Yeah, but he didn't have it. But he tested positive. Yeah, but they tested him a day later. Are they following up on those stories? So we're living in this fear. And there are people who are believing that there's no hope. This is going to go on for years. We need to stop that thought right there. If they try to keep it on for years, we need to stand up for our rights and go, listen here now. There's flu, there are funguses out there, there are diseases. Listen, I'm sorry, but this social distancing and this not being next to your neighbor and pushing us all away from each other, but we're all in this together separately. They're making sure that we understand that we're separate in this. And I'm like, no, we're not separate in this. They're claiming we are. If I don't want to be separated, I'm going to go be around people if I want to. Now, they might not want to be around me, but here's the thing. I'm not playing this fear game. I'm sorry, Now, I've got my own little tidbits of fear, but I'm going to stay in the hope column. Now, what has this got to do with shaman basics? Because if a shaman only worried about stuff instead of giving hope to the people in the village, even though situations were dire, hey, okay, was a spirit, and I've had several medicine people and other folks say my spirit is of a Heyoke. So when I'm the contrary, if everybody's really happy, I'm going to go in and say, everybody's happy today, but listen, we gotta remember there, we've got obligations down the road and winter's coming or something. And if the situations are dire, then hey, okay, his responsibility was to bring the level of the spirit of the community, of the tribe up, to keep them from going too depressed. And so, and over the years, and I have accepted that I am a Heyoke in that. So here I am with, the chaos and the fear. And, I drew cards the other night, and, again, joy comes up. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, well, we're living in all this fear. We have to make sure that there is joy in our lives. We have to make sure that we have value for ourselves. We have to make sure that our core values are strong. And like I talk about all the time, have self confidence, not to the point of being arrogant, but self assured. And being a self assured, confident person, especially if you're not trying to make other, if you're tooting your horn all the time about how good you are, then you don't understand this, because it isn't about whether or not you toot your horn. Wow, look how good I did. Well, look, that's not it. You know, do the good job, because that's where the humility comes in. And people will notice. And if they don't, then it's, that's the lesson in life. You don't worry about those folks who covet your behavior. And I've had folks in the past who are like, I'm a damn good engineer and I could spot problems. And they hated me for that, because it made them look bad. I was like, well, you go out and fix it. Well, but I don't know what to do. Well, then I can see the problem. I'll at least give it a try. Well, it's hopeless to me. Okay. So I didn't give up hope. I always said, this isn't working. Let's try another way, which is something I learned back in the early 70s. And it was a way of teaching mental handicapped folks, in that if you can't put this and this together to build a widget, or your hands are so mangled, you've got a physical deformity, then we're going to teach you how to put these two pieces together that work for you. Because I might be able to use these two fingers and put something together, where somebody else, they might have their hands are cramped. So we have to teach them how to use, how to put something together to where they can just kind of like grab a whole thing. So the other thing is, we would give them a task that they could learn to perform. In other words, if they had issues with their hands, like someone with CP, that or some other jittery kind of condition, in that, well, okay, so you can't put this little nut on this bolt, but you can sort them. You can get, if there's nuts and bolts mixed in containers, which that was some of the jobs that we would get, things were mixed together. So all they had to do was sort. So they didn't have to necessarily pick it up. So you maybe, give them something to hold in their hand, like a brush or something. You say, okay, brush all the nuts, all the nuts go in here, and all the washers go in here, and all the stuff that's left over, the big, the machine screws, they go in this pile. So, and you say, okay, and so they learned how to use the brush, and they learned how to hold the brush if they can't use their fingers to do the separate. So, but the whole thing is if you can't do it one way, you try another way, figure out something else. And invariably, if you opened your thought pattern up, because each of these people had a different disability, you had to be able to say, well, this works for, Jane over here, but John over here, and he's got a similar condition, but he is unable to hold the brush. So we've got to think of something else that will work for him. And what it was, we taught him how to like use the bottoms of he had this grip thing, but he had a little bit of so he learned how to sort with his little fingers, because it was laid out on on a thing, and you spread it out, and but he could sort with his little fingers instead of using his index. Try another way. There's another solution. If this isn't working, or for the handicapped people, their handicap was such that three other people could use a brush, but this person couldn't. So does that exclude them? No. It means that you got to try another way of figuring out how to do this, how to solve the solution. So anyway, so when people fear things too much, they've given up hope that there's any solution. And in my lifetime, and a lot of other people's too, if you learn how to adapt to situations, be a Boy Scout and be prepared, or a Girl Scout. Oops, I coughed. I must have COVID. Um, my friend in the hospital says there are very few people in the hospital that have COVID, and that it's been remarkably sane. That's good. But anyway, so this fear factor versus hope. Now, for those people out there who are going, well, having hopium and love is going to conquer the world. Not in and of itself, but it damn sure helps. If I'm going to live in fear like you want me to do, and everything is a catastrophic event. Pastor Paul Begley, bless his heart, he helped save my soul a few years ago. In that, but everything he talks about is death, dying, destruction, apocalyptic this, catastrophic that. It's another life it's more prophecy from the Lord, and it's more doom. And where's the upside of this? And those people are stuck in there. They're in a fear about, well, we're going to pray for tomorrow, but this is another catastrophic event. So he's always reminding you of the catastrophic event versus, hey, listen, let's save a few souls today. And we're not even going to talk about death and dying anywhere. Nope, we're going to talk about something positive today. Some of these folks just don't do it. So it's always grim. It's always, but, if you give your life to Jesus, well, how about you just be a good person? No, you got to give your life to Jesus. Jesus is the salvation. Well, if you just quit doing idiotic stuff, you might find out that Jesus was an example, and that, you can't live by Jesus's rules these days because it's 2,000 years ago. But what we have to do is understand the basic principle behind the Jesus and the Christ and the Buddha and the this and the that. And what does that mean? It means there's one universal law. And I was telling this to my daughter tonight, and I said, Christians got 10 commandments. And for a long time as a Catholic, 10 commandments. But now that I understand the rule, the one rule, the rule of one, is to do no harm to anything. And it covers everything. People have given me a scenario like, what about this, Dave? And I go, this is going to end up in harm. Somebody's going to feel bad, cheated, something. That's harm. Well, yeah, but it's not like killing and not. Yeah, but the end result was it a positive thing and everything was okay? Or did people get hurt along the way in any way, shape, or form? Well, but that doesn't really matter. No, but it does. So if you're working for the rule of one, the universal law of do no harm, you can't go wrong. I mean, now it can get as down and dirty as cutting grass but now grass likes to be cut, but in that, you're always pruning something, you're always doing this or always doing that. Well, when I'm out pruning, I always tell the trees, I'm sorry, but you just need a trimming. So I'm going to give you a haircut versus just slash and burn and pay no attention. So I always give homage and respect and to those things in nature. And I apologize. There was a great big spider that was running across the floor the other night. And I was like, nope, You got into my territory, and there's too many of you, and I apologize as I squished it. But it was a big spider and a wolf spider, I believe. But that's not the point. He got into my space and ran across my foot. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We got rules here. And I've told the spiders, you stay in your nooks and crannies and we're good. You come into my area, and I don't care if they run across the floor in the kitchen. If I'm not there, fine. But you run, that's my rule. And they know it. I tell them all the time, I don't want to do this, but smack, you're out of here. So, respecting nature, respecting those things in nature on all levels, um, then you are living as close to that one true spiritualness that everybody is trying to get to. Um, Now, some folks just don't give a blip. And for those people, and I've considered this a bunch, and I've asked Creator, if somebody's sitting on the fence and like, well, I don't know if I should really, be spiritual or not. If they're a kind person and somebody's leaning to that side of the fence versus evil, wicked, mean, and bad and nasty, then kind words and prayers could help them to get off the fence and stay on the right side, right? On the side of good versus just being a completely washed out, right? So, and like my daughter's kind of, my granddaughter, excuse me, is kind of sitting on the fence right now. She's gotten out of jail and she could go back in or she could stay out, and it's going to be hard to do this. But it's going to be hard to go back into jail, back into population. And, she's been there, done that, and that ain't no fun. So what do you do? Do you want to go back in or do you want to stay out? And which is tougher? Well, I'd rather be outside, be able to look at the sky, which she found that when she was in population, she couldn't go outside. And it was like that made a big difference to her. Well, yeah, I spent a year, and the only time I got to go outside was in the evenings to go dump the garbage out back. But I relished going out at night just to go out and dump the garbage on the loading dock, spend 5 minutes out there, smoke a cigarette with the guards, and then go back up. And it's like, man, that was a special moment. I would volunteer to take the garbage down just so I could go out on the loading dock. So when everything is taken away from you, the smallest thing becomes grand. Wow, I took it for granted that I could just go outside and look up at the sky anytime I wanted to. And when you can't do something as simple as that, it changes your perspective greatly. Some people, it doesn't affect. Well, the hell with it. Other people, no, sorry. I want to see the sky. So what do? Do you hope for a better tomorrow, or do you fear going back in? Now, I can't just call up my granddaughter like I'd like to. So, and this discussion is sort of devoted to her. And I told my daughter, I said, listen, there are things on my YouTube channel. If Casey can get to a computer, she needs to watch some of these videos that I've been having chats with you folks. And I've had these chats with her. But, she's been wiry and had to go with her, with the bitches and hang out with the hoes and do all this stuff. But now that she's been in, and when she was in the program, it was a lot easier when they sent her to population because she screwed up. And then she realized, wait a minute, I don't like population. Well, if she goes back in, she's going to population. So what would you consider? I'm going to hope for a better tomorrow for her. I'm going to pray that she's going to make the choice, spiritually and otherwise, to not go back in. So that means you got to keep your nose clean. That means you got to follow the rules. That means you got to grow up and say, listen, I must take responsibility for my own actions. And Inaction is just as bad as a bad action. So if you don't try to do better, that's as bad as going off and, well, I don't know, somebody comes along and says, oh, here, let's go get drunk. Well, okay, I ain't doing nothing anyway. But you're on probation. Yeah, but I ain't doing nothing and I'm bored. Nah, 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 nah. Can't do that. You got to be strong and you got to stand up to yourself and go, I'm sorry. I don't want to go back in. I want to stay out. And if it means staying out but not getting drunk, I've been in, so I know what that is, and I know what it's like to sit outside, just to be outside. So I'm going to hope and pray that she does the right thing. And I'm going to hope and pray that she's going to hope instead of fear. Okay. Well, I don't have this. Yeah, but it takes a little time to get established back. You've been in prison, right? You don't just get out and go back to being normal. It don't work that way. Your body has to adjust and your system has to adjust, and the guards and the this and the that, and because they're always watching you when you're in there. So when you get out, it's like you still get that feeling that somebody's watching you when there ain't nobody there. And after all these years of being out of jail, I can still hear those steel doors when they shut. I mean, it because the whole place I was at was nothing but concrete and steel. They could slam a door on the third floor, and you could hear it and feel the vibrations down on the second floor. And on the third floor, you could hear it up and down the corridors and stuff. So, it was always noisy. Something was always being banged open or opened, and it would clang. So there was always this noise. And I can still hear that noise. I mean, right now I was thinking about it and I was like, I still know, and it still gives me a little clang. There was that last little clunk, and I could still feel it, after all these years. So, and that reminds me, I don't want to go back in there, so I've been keeping my nose clean. And when they busted me with the marijuana that I was growing in my backyard, it was from a helicopter. So it wasn't like I was selling on the street. No, they busted me, from a helicopter. Anyway, so people say, well, why are you doing that? Well, nobody knew I was doing it. It was my own private little stock for me and my epilepsy. And, so now they prescribe it to people, you know, but I have that felony to live down. So I'm a felon. Yeah, I'm possession. Yeah. Okay. Because of their rules. Now, I've lived in fear that, paranoia, that things would happen and this was going to be, we can't stay there. So, what is bothering you? And there are a list of fears that fall into the fear category, but it's what I choose to accept or receive. So, do I accept this fear or do I reject it? I'm sorry, I see you over there. I'm watching you. I'm watching you like a hawk and I'm observing, but I'm allowing Raven to bring messages to me from the Great Spirit. I am allowing um, Hummingbird to bring me joy and to see happiness. I'm going to take a break and be like Bear and go into that dream walk, into the silence, so I can hear the answers. How do I fix this? I don't know. The first thing you do is don't worry about it and just say, okay, all right, I need some help. I got this issue here. Now, I've said this before, and it is about the wording. And it's important that we stay out of the negative. So when people say, and I'm just using this as an example, but understand, when you say, I gave it up to the universe, no, because you can't give it up. It's your problem, it's your issue. What you can do is say, all right, I'm trying to solve this on my own. I need help. Help me find answers to this solution. Now you would say, but that's what I mean. No, what you said was you give up. And in this, where hope and fear lie, if you speak, well, I give up, I gave it to the universe. No, wrong, because you gave up and you keep saying it. I gave it up to the universe. You keep saying you're giving up. And that's not really what you want. So in this hope, you don't give up. Because if you give up, there's no hope. So you got to get out of those negative words. Well, I gave it to the universe. I gave up. No, don't give it to the universe. Ask the universe for the help because you're the one that needs it. And if you give it up, then you're relinquishing any. It doesn't work that way. Look, I got a problem. Help me. Did you give it up? No. You gave up worrying about it, and you're going to accept help from the universe. And if it comes in, then you receive that information and then you put it to good use. That's up to you. So, what do we do? Do we continue to hope? Yes. And I'm sorry, but anybody that's going around going, well, this hopium is this stuff about hope and love and all this stuff, that hopium stuff, it's just shame, shame, shame on these people. And some of these people are supposed to be spiritual advisors. Now, in any point in time, there was, you never give up hope. Now, here's the thing. There was this program I talked about where this soldier during World War II, he wouldn't carry a gun. He was a conscientious objector and he refused to shoot anyone. But he saved 79 men on Hacksaw Ridge on Okinawa by himself. He lowered them down this 200 or 300-foot cliff to the beach below. And he got accommodations and so forth. But he made his choice. He said, there's enough killing. I don't want to be a part of it. And he was wounded. And he was this and that. And he suffered from shock and dehydration. And he said that every time he would get one and lower it down, the soldier, he said, I asked God, give me the strength for just one more. And then he said, and the next time I brought one back, he said, I asked God, he said, give me the strength. Give me the strength for one more. So he wasn't asking for any special favors per se. And like from me and myself, that was like confirmation to me for my own self. I always ask, I don't ask for money or this or that. I ask for strength. Because if I have the strength, then I can just about figure it out. But if I lose strength or this or hope or whatever, if you give me strength, I'll do my best to do the rest of it. So asking for prayers and this and that and the other thing, give me strength to work on this problem. Give me strength to figure this solution out. Give me the strength to stay hopeful. Give me the strength to fight off the fear and to continue to be hopeful, even in dire circumstances. I remember when I was drowning in the river, and it would have been so easy to have let go of that canoe and go under the water. And I was like, "Nyet, no." When I got out of the water and finally got in the canoe from all the water, anyway, I was freezing to death. I was in stage 2 hypothermia and couldn't stop shivering. And I kept saying to myself, just keep paddling. Lord, give me the strength to keep paddling. Because by paddling, and I could barely hold on to the paddle, my hands were froze so bad. And I just kept saying, I know. I would look down with my headlamp because it was dark, full moon, but dark. And I'd look down and go, I couldn't feel my hands and I wasn't sure that I had the paddle, but I just kept thinking, I've got the paddle. It's still in my hands. Give me the strength to keep paddling. So for every situation that I've been in, as I've looked back over this hope, fear thing, If fear caught me at first, then I had to hope that I'm going to get out of the water and not drown. And then I've got the hope that I'm going to make it back to the to the truck before I freeze to death. So, and in all of that though, the prayer was simple: give me strength. So, what do we ask the universe? Give me strength. Now, there are times when you can say, I'm lost. Can you help me out here and give me a little guidance? That pops up a time or two in life. But if you have the strength and you're confident about yourself, you know that it may be some kind of weird thing like try another way. Well, I tried to do it this way and that didn't work. So you gave up. Well, I gave it to the universe. No, you still need a solution. So what you say is, I need help with this. I need the strength to figure this out. Period. So to them folks selling hopium out there, that are against it and are talking down about, well, this hope and love thing, we do have to work on it. We do have to act on it. But the idea that it doesn't do any good and that we should all give in and give up, I'm not buying it. Just not, just not, just not. And my daughter's learning it. There are other people excuse me, got the hiccups. Thank you, Bob. That's the coffee. But the idea though that somehow having hope is a bad thing, and that's just wrong. It just is, whether you believe me or not. But that's just wrong. Um, it's just wrong because to constantly live in fear, well, we know where that gets us, right? Nowhere. We just go around in circles and scream with our hands up in the sky. We're all gonna die. I used to do that. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. Blah, blah, blah. And so by doing that, we ignore any hope for getting out of a situation. So anyway, I think I've made my point after golly business. It's been an hour. Let me see who all's in here. Says 15 of y'all. B3 Dazo, action. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Welcome and prayers to you. Slightly slanted. Oh, please God help me. I'll never. Or something. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dark Truth. I'm glad I'm still with you too. And there are times when I honestly man, I've done some really, why am I still here? But I know that I've accepted my mission. I'm here to communicate. And I was talking with some of the folks the other day. And what is my mission? My mission is to help you think something else, give you a different point of view. Maybe you're stuck in a situation and there's no way out. I have felt this way. And I'm telling you, the dangest things will come to you if you allow them. And that's not going to work. Hang on. Maybe because I used to have thoughts and go, okay, that's not going to work because it doesn't fit the normal thing. Well, but then I would have to go back later on and go, but wait a minute, I just missed that too quickly. I really didn't. I really did. I just said, nah, that ain't going to work. And hang on, wait a minute. There's a part of that idea that I just had that may work. Oh, but it won't work. And then, so I've had to backpedal a few times actually a lot of times and go, wait a minute, there's something about that though. So if an idea crosses your mind, you might look at it, that's not going to work. Maybe there may be something in that's in this thought, and this thought. So there's something about this and a little bit of that and there's something over here. And in the business, we call that jury rigging. You say, well, I don't have the proper tools to do this, but I can use some baling wire and a thing of this, and I can fix this. Give me some duct tape, So, but if we don't know about duct tape, then we can't fix it because we don't have duct tape. If we don't have any, baling wire. Back in the day, that was the thing. You bump, knock your muffler off, get out the baling wire. And for lots of other things too. But so, and we didn't have duct tape back in them days, but now everybody's got some duct tape and everybody's got a little bit of this or that and blah blah blah. Watching the race the other day, the NASCAR at Talladega. Oh my God, the wrecks they had. And the front end of those cars and the back of the end of those cars were literally taped together to get them through the race. Unbelievable. It was a good race too, by the way, but I think that's what I did Saturday, that I can't remember what I did. I watched the race. But anyway, Talladega is just one of them, if you're into sports car racing or, stock car, that's a track. But anyway, but even, I can't remember who it was. They had his fender wrecked. Okay. So he came into the pits during a yellow and they taped it down. And then later on, he had a flat tire, which literally blew the left front fender off the car. So they had to go into yellow flag and clean the debris off the track. He raced until the very end and was like running fifth or sixth or something like that. And then they had a major crash, actually a couple of them right there at the end. And it finally put him out. But, he didn't give up. And if things would work out just a little differently in those last couple of laps, he might have won without a fender and with his hood all crunched up. Never give up. So, but sometimes you have to, because the engine's dead. But now we're talking about stock car races. But in life, sometimes if we're stalled, we just got to figure out another way to do it. Now, there are folks, they've never driven a stick shift. And I don't want an automatic. And people say, why? And I say, it's simple. Because I can jumpstart any standard transmission by getting it to roll a little bit and pop the clutch. You cannot do that with an automatic transmission. And people, well, yeah, but no. I'm sorry. I've been in situations where I had to push my truck myself to get it rolling a little bit, but I was able to pop the clutch and get her started when the battery was down or the starter wouldn't work. I was able to keep going. Where other people, but I can't. They had a standard transmission. So anyway, what's this got to do with hope and fear? I don't fear not being able to start my truck. Now, I'm down here at the bottom of the hill. My battery runs out. I ain't got nowhere to push it. But in the old days, when I had problems starting my truck, I parked up on the hill. So all I had to do was walk up the hill, get in it, pop the clutch, roll down a little ways, and turn the key on. Forgot to do that a couple of times. And it wouldn't start, and then you ran out of your hill. But anyway, so you deal with fear by looking at the problem and going, okay, there's a solution to this. And my solution to some of these things are I'm going to get a standard transmission, or I'm going to, do this, or I'm going to do that. Like right now, my house, it's a passive solar house. It's going to be cooler here in the next few months. And I've got all these windows that let in a lot of heat during the daytime. I don't have to fire up the heater. I don't have to do anything. It works by itself. So it's like we can make choices. So I made choices years ago. And one of my reasons for building this porch is to have more solar gain in the house so that the house will stay even warmer. But the idea, though, so I'm trying to think ahead and also have an indoor greenhouse kind of thing. So plus a place to just go sit on the porch. I like it out there. But in order to get that, I had to build the house. I had to work on this. I had to get the windows, design it, and over the years kind of tolerate it. So you don't get anything for nothing in that respect. So if we're going to ask for help from the universe, know that you're going to have to act on it. You're going to have to do the work. Now, unless you're just an invalid, and no offense to invalids, but if you just simply can't do it, then you send out energy and whatever for people to come help you. Now, in my situation, I've waved money around and I can't get folks to come out here and help me. So I'm am I worried about it? Nah. I'll just continue on as I have been doing. I'll just keep plugging along. Because in my world, I ain't got nothing. Well, I could have better things to do, but because of other worldly situations, I'm just going to putz around. So we try to take on the world's problems. And the best thing to do is not do that. Hi, Robert V. Good to see you. So, what we do is give ourselves the option of being able to stay positive. If we say, well, oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with vaccinations. I'm going to have to deal with masks. Yeah. And the more you deal with it, the more you deal with it, and the more you put it in there, you're just you're regurgitating the negative energy. And they're really shooting the juice to us in that respect. Okay. So awareness. I see what they're doing here. Now, you don't have to go down these rabbit holes. There are some folks that I know are still chasing these dead gum rabbits down holes. And I just try to listen. Why are you doing this to yourself? Well, this, I didn't know about this and didn't know about that. Okay, so what are you doing? Well, I learned that this and child trafficking and this. Listen, it's been going on for a while. Everybody's been talking about it. You are just now becoming aware. Yes, but do you know how many millions of people? Yes. Where have you been during this time? But listen, you worrying about it and becoming upset and obsessed with what the child trafficking, this. Yes, it's real. But so then our awareness of, whoops, maybe I didn't know how bad it was. Now I'm aware. Our awareness of it is enough. Because where does diving down this rabbit hole gonna get you in the end? Fear. It's gonna take hope out of the equation. These people are doing this, and there's just no hope. See? So regardless of what the situation is, if we leave hope out of the equation, then it does become hopeless, but not to all of us. So there are people out there with good intentions that are allowing the fear to overcome the hope that they have because, well, hope and love, that just ain't going to. No, you can act. You can start talking to people about it. You can start a neighborhood watch on for children. There are lots of proactive things you can do without sending money to anybody, just being a part of things and bringing awareness to other people without becoming extremely emotional and selling fear porn. Now, am I trying to sell hope? No. But I am trying to say, let's get rid of the fear. Recognize it for what it is and stay of the heart. Because a shaman in training will understand there's a bigger picture here. And if I only focus on the fear part, then the wolves are going to eat you. And then, you will freeze to death. You will, you can say, well, it's going to get really cold and I'm afraid I might not have enough firewood. So, but you can say, but I'll manage. So you always finish that sentence. Well, I might run out of firewood. Well, you might. Does that mean you're going to freeze to death? Well, I don't know how cold it's going to get. Well, it's only going to get to 30. Well, then you're not going to freeze to death because the house, and blah, blah. So the fear, and I'm speaking about myself in years past. Well, I'm going to freeze to death. I'm going to freeze to death. I went almost one whole winter with barely lighting up the heater because I wanted to see how well the house would do on its own. It was 30 degrees outside and 50 in here. And people say, it was 50 in the house. Yeah, but it was 30 outside. But it was 50 in the house. Yeah, I wore a jacket and sat and watched TV with a blanket around me. And yeah, it was chilly, but I didn't have to build a fire. I didn't have to do this. But it was a test. Also, if I didn't have any firewood and if I had to survive and it was 30 degrees outside, how cold is the house? It only gets to 50. I can deal with that. I'm not going to freeze to death at 50. I got enough clothes and blankets. I'm not freezing to death at 50. I don't think I'd freeze to death at 30 because I've been out in weather in the 30 degrees. Now, the older I get, it's easier for me to actually put up with the cold than it is the heat, but I'm not afraid of it anymore. So it's cold. Okay, put on a jacket. So I might shiver a little bit. Big deal. I've had hypothermia 3 times. The cold ain't going to work. I'm not going to fear it anymore. That doesn't mean I'm going to be careless, but I'm not going to fear it anymore. So sometimes we have to test ourselves like, all right, it's going to be 30 degrees. I'm not going to light the heater. I'm going to brave it out, tough it out, and say, well, that wasn't life threatening. No, it was uncomfortable, a little bit. But at the same point, it was like it proved to me I can do this. So it gives me extra hope. If I don't have firewood or something like that were to happen, um, and it gets to 30 degrees, I'll be okay. It'll be all right. I can manage. Where other people would be freaking out. It's going to be 50 degrees in the house. Yeah, but it's 20 outside. Yeah, but it's cold. Okay. But did you die? Well, no. Not to say that everybody can do what I can do. But the thing is that if you adapt, if you admit it, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. There is no hope. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's going to be 50 degrees and I'm going to be sitting in the house. And, if I got to go to the bathroom, that toilet seat's going to be really cold. It's okay. We can handle this. So when you give yourself the confidence, I don't know how I'm going to handle it, but I am. That's reinforcing your own hope. That's reinforcing your own confidence. Does it mean you're being egotistical? Not necessarily. Hopefully it isn't. You don't go out bragging to everybody. Well, I'm bragging now that I allowed it to get to 30 degrees with no heater on. But that's to prove it to myself and to show you we can do things, but sometimes we have to test it. Well, I'm not saying we should jump into a cold river and try to drown and see whether or not you can make it through hypothermia. I am not, that ain't where I'm headed with this. But some of our fears, we can test ourselves and ask for help and guidance, strength. Give me the strength to do this. Give me the strength to see if I can go outside for 2 hours or something, or give me the strength to see if I can do this thing, And for the folks that I know who have injuries, I've been telling them, my granddaughter, I can't believe this. She gained 35 pounds while she was in jail. What? She weighs almost as much as I do now. And it's like, you did what? And she's a little short character. Well, to me anyway. But so you gained how much weight? And now your clothes don't fit? Now, did you think about that? Well, no, but you gained how much? Should you have gained that much weight while you were in jail? Well, it was doing this. Maybe you could have exercised. I gained a few pounds when I was in jail, but I was working in the kitchen and I turned that into muscle. I mean, my biceps grew. We were doing exercises on the bars. We were competing with each other on how many push-ups we could do or how many pull-ups. And, we weren't using gym equipment, we were literally using the bars in the jail. So how you look at your incarceration, well, there's nothing to do. Well, it depends. How creative can you be? Well, but if you're stuck creatively or you don't allow yourself to see if you keep yourself from seeing any other solutions, well, I've tried that and that's it. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's the only answer. Try another way, but that's the only answer. Well, then, and I've known a lot of people over the years, and some folks are still on it. And I keep praying because they have the information. As I've said to many of you, you've got the knowledge inside of you. You've got to learn how to trust it. You have to learn how to be confident so that you can keep that fear off the charts. And hope is always there. No matter what it is the earth going to end? Are we going to get hit by an asteroid? Now, I didn't used to think this way, but now I say, well, so what? Well, it'll send us into another ice age. Okay, I could do with some cold weather. But what about this and what about that? We live on a planet flying around through space. Okay, we have this planet is always taking its chances, and anybody that's ever lived on this planet has always taken chances. It's what it is. So, but instead of worrying about was a hurricane going or not, don't know. Now, yes, I do believe that there's some weather manipulation going on. There are outside forces that are creating some of these catastrophes. But even when they weren't, we still had catastrophes. We still had bad hurricanes back when I was a kid growing up. We still had tornadoes. There was one tornado back in the 60s that went damn near straight across Florida. It ended up, it went for a ways, hopped and kept going. And it was like a half a mile path of destruction. And it was the worst tornado ever seen at that time. And I've listened to tornado information. They never mentioned that one down there in Florida and how much destruction it did. There were places down there that never recovered after that tornado went through. And thank God not many people were hurt, injured, or died. But, I was literally, we had to drive through the debris. We were 3 houses down from where the tornado went through. I was getting ready for school and we heard this freight train go by. And when we went outside, the clouds were dark and rainy and everything. We got in the truck, pulled out of the driveway, and started to drive down to go to school. And there was debris across 15th Street. I mean, and everything was gone on either side of it. And we were like, what? It was bad. So, but people, always discuss, well, it's never been this bad. I remember it. Well, no, it's never been this bad. Yes, it has been. It's never been this dry. Yes, it has been. My well's gone dry several times over the years, and I've literally had to tote water in here. And then I got these big containers, and I collect rainwater, which in some places is against the law. So, but here's the thing: there are ways around everything if you try to figure it out. There's always the opportunity to stay with hope. Wow, that's a really shitty thing that happened, but yeah, okay, well, we're going to get over it. My friend who had lost her brother, the heart attack at 44, she came, her and her daughter was here the other day, and we were chatting, and I said, how did it go? Well, he was cremated, so she said, we couldn't get the family together, but we had the service afterwards. And she said, I had to get up and say something about my brother because I just felt like if I didn't, he'd be mad at me. She goes, I know he really wouldn't, but even though it was tough for me to do, I had to say something at his the funeral. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And she goes, but I feel better about it. And she said, I had this thought that if I hadn't said something at his, wake, that I would have felt bad about it afterwards. So she overcame her fear, even though she was cracky voice and crying. She did it. She overcame her fear because she felt like it would haunt her if she didn't. I mean, now that's interesting. But so we do that sometimes. I know I have, in that you fear something badly enough that you don't act on it. And then later on, you live with the rest of your life in some kind of regret. Well, I wished I'd have said something. I wished I'd have stepped in. I wish that I had. Yeah, but we let fear overcome it. So, how do we get out of it? We do our best to overcome the fear. How do we get out of it? We keep the faith. How do we get out of this? We keep hope going. We don't lose faith. We keep it going. Under whatever the circumstances, we're stuck out there in the middle of the ocean, floating around on a plank. We're going to keep hope. Now, we may die. We may, get sunburned and have a thing. Maybe. Or we could get picked up, and rescued. There have been lots of times that people in boats or this or that, or get lost in the jungle or the desert or whatever, and they find their way out, or somebody finds them. But if you gave up hope, that's it. That you just signed your death warrant. So in that signing of your death warrant, it's the death of your spirit as well. Now, hang on. I say that not necessarily that you're in a situation of dying, because your spirit will live on. But I mean, if you're always living in fear, then that's going to kill your spirit. You're still going to have it at the end, but is it going to be the frequency? And that you want? Is that how you want to go out? Being afraid? And even if the situation is dire and maybe you are going to die, face it with like, well, there's a movie. It was not Henry Fonda. His son, I can't think of his name at the moment, and I think he passed away recently. But anyway, him and his lady friend she's bartender. They're standing on the beach watching this huge 200-foot wave coming at the beach. So are you afraid, or you just say, well, there it is. I'm going to break. I ain't going to get away from this. I could be scared all I want to, but even running is not going to do any good. So what do? Let's face our fear and just stand here and keep our wits about us. And when the wave comes and washes us away, let's hope it doesn't last long, So, but if it is a dire situation, let's just say, look, I hope that I'm going to, that I don't die from this situation. But I'm going to be confident with my spirit. And even if I do, I'm prepared to go. So that's one of them Jesus messages. Be ready at all times. What? We don't know when we might pass. And too many weird things have been happening to folks, people that I know and stuff. Anyway, it's happening to other people too, but when it's somebody that you've known for years and years and years, and there's tragedy there and there and there and there, and oh my God, there's a bunch of people that I know that are in some serious shit right now. But even this one she's young to me, but she's in her late 30s, early 40s. They're not giving her a prognosis because of her condition of being able to live, quote, a long and easy life. And they're like, you may live a couple more years, but we're not sure about that, and we'll do the best we can. But she hasn't given up hope, even with her situation. And so we can't. If we give up hope, well, might as well just say, forget about it, and just stand still and die. But if you refuse to give in, even when there seems to be no hope, when you accept the fact that it doesn't matter. Now, for me, I was freezing to death, or when I was that 3 days on the river in the heat. At one point, I just said, well, if I don't make it back to the truck, that's it. That's it. I'm not giving up. But if I don't make it because of how hot it was and the situation, I'm good with this. But I'm not going to give up. And I didn't. And I made it back, made it through it. So those are extreme situations. But what if you're caught in an extreme situation? You know, the people who are out there in California fires, they're driving through these blazes with smoke, fire on both sides. Yes, it's scary as crap. But the thing is you got to overcome that fear and keep going if you want to stay alive. You've got to get that intestinal fortitude and go, listen, I'm going to do this. And people are finding out that they're a lot more courageous now. They have, you know, when your house gets blown away, was a lady that they interviewed after this last hurricane down around Pensacola. She said the storm came in and took part of my roof, and me and my dog sat huddled in the closet, wondering if we were going to make it through the storm. And she was an older woman; she was in her 60s or older, and so her and her little dog huddled in a closet in the center of the house after the roof had been torn off and it was leaking and everything. But she said, I never gave up hope. I just knew I had to wait it out. And sometimes it's so crappy, we got to just wait it out. We got to wait till the storm blows over. But if we give up hope and we live in fear, then that just makes the circumstance even more dire. Okay. Um, Candy Apple, hi. Been listening while taking care of mom. Good. We hope mom is doing better. Slightly slanted, scared is as scared to be. Brandy, hi. How are you? Project Skyfalls. Let's see who else. Gerald, hi. How are you? We need to know how to traverse the universe. They've been working on this web forever. Don't go to the light. You'll pop out another something. Be a light. Slightly slanted says Alice Cooper is love times 10. Yeah, same to you, Candy Apple, and to everybody here. Love to all you folks. You know, and in talking with folks who are not aware that I do a live stream, I explain to them. I say, you're doing a live stream? Yeah. Well, why? And I've been kicked in the tail by the creator and the angels saying, you need to have these discussions. And it was like, well, what do you get out of it? And I said, well, there are times when I do a 2.5 hour show and I'm literally exhausted out of it because I'm trying to stay connected with my spirit guide and make sure that the information coming in, because there are times when I think I'm done and they're like, keep going. And there are times when I just, aren't we done yet here? You've seen me do it. But sometimes when I think I'm done, there seems like there's a question in the universe and they want me to answer it. And I'm like, well, okay, so give another example. Well, okay. But anyway, if you see someone who's given up hope, the best thing we can do is help them regain it. Help them to calm their fears and say, look, I know it's bad, but we'll get through this. But this and this, I know it's tough for all of us, but we're going to get through this. There's one of those commercials about the COVID thing, and there's this black gentleman, and he goes, "Yeah, we're going to get this, baby. We're going to make it. We going to make it." So I like that his attitude. Regardless of how or what trend, we're going to make it to the other side, to the other end, to whatever. And we're going to learn how to adapt. Now, that doesn't mean we have to give in to the man forever and give up with some of this nonsense. No, we see for what it is and we try to bring common sense into the picture. And I've noticed that, at some of the football games, there were some of the colleges that were allowing groups of people to sit together. And they were all drinking beer and having fun and eating popcorn and stuff. And then there were other college teams. There was nobody in the stands. So there are people who are feared to death. And then there are other people who are going, okay, let's, who wants to take, well, they're going to let a fifth of the people come in. All right, y'all spread out. And then there are other teams. They were like, half of the people, a third of the people were there. But they were like, yeah, well, we'll try not to mix our groups too much. But that, some people were wearing masks and others weren't. And I was like, that's the America I want to see. These people who are being cautious, who are being respectful, but at the same time, they're not going to live in fear. And that's what I see about this mask thing. It's promoting a fear that may just honestly be not necessary as much as they say. So I'm going to wear the mask where they tell me to, but at the same time, I am not living in the fear they wish to promote. Well, what if you get sick? Then I'll get sick. I've had the flu before. Nobody told me to wear a mask. I almost died, and I was 20 years ago, and I was so sick. I literally, I was out of here. Couldn't move. It got dehydrated. Had to go to the hospital for fluids for a day and a half, 2 days. So this idea that this is serious, I'm like, what about back then when a bunch of us got sick? Nobody said anything about wearing a mask. Nobody was talking about this. Nobody. Okay, we've been through this before. But see, again, fear. So I hope people will become more aware. Okay, that's a positive. I hope people will be cautious where they need to be. I hope people will use their common sense. And it's been stated that washing your hands is important, if not more, than wearing the mask. But so anyway, so which do we choose, hope or fear? I choose hope any day. I recognize the fear, but I ain't going to live there. So for all of you, for all of us, that's what we need to do. That's how we get out of this. Teresa says, love lives on forever, Soul Tribe. May your love keep shining bright. Yep. Boys were all right. Steve, what you up to? Now, Teresa, I agree with you. Keep hope alive. Do something of real value for another, something that really helps, no matter how small. And understand this, you don't have to go anywhere. You can make a phone call. You can send a text message, but make sure they get it, if it's something, but the even above all other things, you can keep faith. You can keep hope alive. Whether you act, yes, if you can do something for someone else, but if you can't do for something for somebody else, because that was one of my issues. But I want to go help people, but I can't drive. Well, I want to do this, but I can't drive. Well, so, and I've talked about this before. So in my prayers and in my hope, how do I do this? I started this channel. So, and I try to choose a subject that the spirits, and y'all, I see this fear and I see this. So it's the awareness, like Hawk, of the bigger picture. So when we only focus on the fear, we can't see any further than that. Slightly saying it, I'm loving you guys more every minute. Well, that's good. The Anu and the Coronar. I missed something up farther up, and if I hit this thing, it's going to scroll out of everything. So Project Skyfall's Dark Truth, Busted, Slightly Slanted, Teresa, Gerald, Candy Apple, Dark Truth, Michelle. I don't know. I'm probably missing somebody else. I thought I saw Delaney in the house earlier. Yeah, see, every time I try to scroll up, it just goes wacko. Michelle. Brandy, yeah, I think I missed you. Uh, Project Skyfall. Oh, to the comment about traversing the universe. One of these days, I'm going to have, and it's a topic that needs to be discussed. And I sort of talked about it in the last Earth Wobble ET section, but I will give you all a little. there is a science that most of us are not aware of. And that science is not being talked about, boasted about, or whatever. And you say, well, what science is that? There have been solutions to using rockets that go straight up in the air for a long time. And they refuse, the system refuses to look at anything else. Now, there's the magnetism thing, there's a this, there's a that. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have the knowledge, but the science that they're promoting to the general public is not the science of the universe. It's only a small portion of the science of the universe. Now, I have seen ET blink in and blink out. I've seen one blink in, shoot another one down, and blink out. So, and we've all seen pictures of the clouds and stuff. They're using clouds as their some of their camouflage. And we have to understand that, well, we don't know how they do that. No, we don't. There is a science, a really big science that we only know about that much of what's going on. And it's because now Tesla knew things. And 100 years later, people are still trying to resurrect what he knew 100 years ago. So wait a minute. So we've had information for a long time. How we as a society chose to believe it or use it? Well, you can't make money off of it. Tesla wasn't about making money. He wanted to provide free energy. Whoops, can't do that. Now the oligarchs and the billionaires, they want everything's got to make money. That's the bad side of things. So, but at the same point, they're still building nuclear plants. Stop it. Stop it. There are a lot of other ways to, I've talked about chicken manure before. There's enough chicken manure produced every year to feed the country, that chicken manure could go to be turned into methane, which could power power plants, free energy. Okay. Every single sewage treatment plant, 98%, anaerobic digestion. That means that it uses air and they mix it up, and the stink goes in the air, and so do the gases. And so they have these big separators in there, and these big blades that go around that keep the crap and everything mixed up, so that the air, it will release the methane into the air. So every single town that has a sewer system and has the potential to make gas. It's already made, to collect it and put it back to the town, or to have a power plant or something. We have the knowledge. We just don't have the gumption. Years ago, hydrogen cars. Iceland or Greenland, I can't remember which one, made it a rule that everybody was going to drive, hydrogen. Well, there's not that many people that live there. That's not the point. They made up their mind to do it, and they did. We haven't done so. Well, it's electric cars. Yeah, but you're using nuclear power plants to power your car. Well, but you could use solar collectors and you can do these other things, but it's the batteries. The batteries are expensive. The things that they use in the batteries are expensive. So years ago, there was a science show, and it was on broadcast television. And I'm trying to think. He played Hawkeye on MASH in the series. So anyway, but he went around and he went to the Ford plant, and this was like 2002 or 3. And he was talking to the engineer there, and he said, listen, and they were looking at a Ford Escort. And he said, listen, you got this engine. He said, now what would it take to convert this engine into hydrogen to burn hydrogen. The guy was like, "Well, you're going to have a different carburetor, and of course, a different gas tank." But the idea that we need special tanks because it's hydrogen, people are freaking out. Well, we have to have this or that. It's hydrogen. Okay, fine. But gasoline is volatile. Okay. But we don't worry about whether or not our gas tanks are going to blow up. Now, back in the day, we did, but, Pintos and rear end collisions. Okay. But the science that's out there right now is not the science of the universe. There is so much more. So to traverse across the universe, if you're thinking about any kind of rocket propulsion, forget about it. We ain't going to Mars in 3 or 4 months. Where's the poo going to go? You're going to have enough water. You're going to have all these supplies. People got to eat 3 meals a day. We've got all these things in space travel. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. You got all these things because you're thinking in Earth terms. You're not thinking about space terms. And you think ET, if he's got to go to the toilet, they're across the solar system. Boom. We'll be home for dinner kind of thing, and we were just circling Jupiter and they're already on halfway to another solar system. What? Yeah. Boing. They're there. So we say, well, the only way we can go across the universe is with a rocket. No, the only way we're going to get to outer space is to get shot up in the sky straight up. Back in the 60s, even in the 50s, they had come up with these ideas and even tested a few of them to where there was a catapult, okay, like they have on carriers, aircraft carriers. You park it in front of this thing, this steam driven, and it shoves the airplane off the end of the ship. So there was study done and everything about you would have the rocket that was on a flat surface that would gain momentum and then go up a ramp pointed at the sky, but at an angle, and that there would be a carrier, sort of like an extra booster, but when it left the ramp, it would separate and then the rocket would kick in. But before the rocket kicked in, it would have already achieved a certain velocity. It would already be, well on its way without using fuel from the rocket itself. So it's like, what? Oh, and they just scratch that. They don't use it. Well, wait a minute. The technology's there. You could fly up to a certain place, be using conventional engines, which they have tried to do, but they gave up. Now, did they give up or are they just not telling us? Well, they show us Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy. They show the Soyuz rockets going up. But that's the worst way to go is straight up, all the amount of energy and torque and all that. Anyway, so when people say we're going to Mars, we're going here and there, not if you're thinking rockets. If you're thinking you got to take all this food and stuff, then you don't have the right idea. You need to take a backpack, a couple frozen dinners, and a porta-john, but you're going to go there and back so quickly, you're not going to have to worry about long-term stuff. Well, we need, 9 months worth of food to get to Mars. We need this to do that. No. Stargate. Yep. There are things like that make so much more sense traveling back and forth and around the universe. So, but here's the thing, and I've always believed this, even as a kid, rockets ain't the answer. And I mean, I'm an old groupie of science fiction since, the late 50s and early 60s. So I've been at this for, 55 years in my science fiction area. But in my contemplation of things and just looking at the facts and science itself, this is stupid. They're still talking about rockets. They're still talking about fuel. They're still talking about this. Well, what about ion drives? Well, listen, ET's got stuff. They pop in and they pop out. Is it possible? Well, that can't happen. Yes, it can. We just don't. Those of us who are trying to listen to the likes of, oh, what's his, not Michio Kaku, that guy, the Japanese gentleman, the Oriental fellow, he's got a good head on his shoulders. But the black gentleman that spouts all this stuff, he's still telling us that comets are made out of ice when they clearly aren't. So, the idea, though, they're not telling us the truth about science. And in that, that's sort of like they're not giving us any hope. Well, we could get to Mars if we've got 9 months of supplies and all this other stuff. Why don't you just turn on the Stargate that's already on Mars and we'll just walk through, screw this other stuff. But we won't talk about that. But anyway, so that's my 2 cents on that. So my friends, I love you all. I do. And there are things in the universe that at the moment are beyond our comprehension because we haven't had the basis of some of this knowledge. They've been telling us lies in so many areas for so long. We honestly don't believe that these things can happen when actually somebody's doing it. And, so I do believe that governments have at least some of these other technologies. And I do believe for a long time they've been keeping a secret. And whether it's the wreck in Roswell or not, there's a lot of other evidence of a lot of other stuff. But to the point, they're not telling us the truth. That's a fact. And there's more to this story. So if we think it's all about rockets, if we think it's all about this or that, remember, there is a much bigger picture here. And do I know what it is? No. But I know it exists. Why? Because I've witnessed some of these things, as many of you have. So you question, well, it must have been a meteor. No, that was a spaceship that blew up. Okay. Why do I know? Because meteors don't scatter and are like a rainbow of different colors. They usually come in, and a meteor will be mostly of one particular element or such. And it will burn up and kind of stay together. But when they come into the atmosphere and do this shredding thing, and there's all these different colors in the atmosphere, that, my friends, is a spaceship blowing up. I'm just saying. Because meteors don't do that. They're green, they're red, they're yellow, but they're not purple and orange and blue and no. And some of these things that I've seen, there are way too many colors for it to be a single a single origin object, Oranges and yellows, yeah. Reds and okay. Greens and some blues, yeah. But because each element will burn at a certain color and temperature, that back in the day, and there are still some people who know how to do it. If you wanted to know what a piece of metal was, you literally took it over to the grinder, turned on the grinder, put on your face shield, and touch the metal to the grinding wheel, and you looked at the sparks, and you could tell it was red or green or whatever, or how orange or whatever the metal was, and it's called the spark test. And, well, I wonder how this is in certain elements. And when you learn what those colors are, you can go over and do a spark test and go, oh, that's got a lot of chrome in it. Okay. Or this has got a lot of something else in it. But to the point. So, but in that spark test of what's coming in the atmosphere, that's my reason for saying that. If different metals of different compositions will give varying colors in the atmosphere, or, well, in the atmosphere, yeah, if you're grinding it. But to the point, though, if it's coming into the atmosphere as a rock or a something, they usually don't have all these different colors because the compounds are more condensed. So spaceships, lots of different colors, lots of different metals and materials and plastics and stuff. They all burn at different temperatures and they all give off different colors in the light spectrum. That's what I know. So anyway, my friends, I got to go find out if my dog has returned. Duggar is still outside. I don't see him by the door. So and it's been 2 hours. So let's hope that my dog is okay and will come to me. So anyway, thank you all. I love you. I do, and I honestly do. Mr. Mensa, how are you? You too, Dark. What? Uh, Hi. Oh, he's saying hi to everybody. Well, and I'm fixing to say bye to everybody. I'm Now I am worried about my dog because I don't see him sitting out there where he normally does. But anyway, let's we can remember we can fix it by staying in our intent, you know. And if we don't fix what we think needs fixing, maybe it didn't need fixed, or it's that we just didn't have enough of us to do it. Either way, it'll work out. You know, if it kills us, then that's what it was meant to do. Not that that's what I'm looking for. So, my friends, keep it together. It's going to be an interesting ride. So, I love you all and do continue to pray for you each and every day. I pray that each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will learn to accept and receive the knowledge and the healing and the wisdom from the universe. And in that law three, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive and share the knowledge and the healing and the wisdom from the universe. We can keep it together one way or the other. If it looks like it's turned into shit, let's get out the paper, you know, or get out the shovels, or a pair of hip boots if necessary. So, wish me luck in finding Duggar. Love to you all until next time. And I haven't forgotten I need to have the discussion about the Braves on horseback, okay? But other things keep coming up, and um, uh, we babies, kids, we don't die, we multiply. Now that's funny. I don't care what you say. Um, Thank you, Mr. Mensa. You know, Duggar, he better be out there. What am I going to do, right? But call him some more. So anyway, I love you. Thank you, Michelle. And we got Halloween coming up soon. So let's keep the faith. And, you know, we'll make it one way or the other, right? So from South Georgia, with love and honor to all of you, I say TTFN for now. That is ta ta for now from Southwest Georgia. Adios, my friends. Till next time.